What's up, everyone? Welcome back, Hawks from Room podcast. Man, it's so much fun doing this after a win. The Hawks got some much needed get back tonight. We'll be talking about it all. Mouhamed Gueye's breakout game, Dyson Daniels' offensive growth, and a win that the Hawks pretty needed pretty badly over the Milwaukee Bucks. And even after an 8-game losing streak, they are one game in the win column out of sixth, and just four, I think, out of 4 games out of either the fourth or fifth seed, which is ridiculous. And we'll probably have to talk a little bit about the state of the East as well, but had to come back, bring back my guy Stev. Bucks breakdown. Let's talk about the game, man. How you feeling?
Man, these always are a little better after the Bucks win, so not as good as the last one.
Yeah, I mean, we you guys needed like something from us. Took the NBA Cup from us. Fairs. I get it. Typically we'll start off talking about standouts. But honestly, right before we hopped on the podcast, I read a quote from Trae Young after the game today, where he said that Bogdan Bogdanovic came to his house to say goodbye to Trae's son after he got traded. And I know you guys traded away Chris Middleton, and so I was just wondering, like, where's the fan base at with that decision? Where are you at personally, and like, how do you think that's going to impact this team going forward?
Man, it hurts, man. I was gonna try to look it up before we got on, but I would assume Chris, Giannis are probably like were the active leaders in games played for the same team. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
outside of like Steph and Draymond, I can't
Yeah,
think of like any other guys. Man, I was trying to think, and like only Steph and Draymond came to mind. But man, yeah, that like personally hurts, but I mean, we can get into the Kuzma fit later, but like just from a standpoint of, them just watching them for like the past 12, 13 years, yeah, it was pretty tough.
yeah. We don't have the same amount of length of time and investment in DeAndre Hunter or Brogdon Bogdanovich, but I think even like because I started to do this more often, like it's easy for me to look at it from like a transactional perspective, right? Like, okay, what do we get back? What do we get back? And
Right.
I mean, those dudes were a huge part of like some of my best moments as a fan. I was so proud of them, of those particular guys during multiple playoff moments, and like Bogey was like, I was a huge Kyle Korver fan growing up, so having that type of player, like a sharpshooter, guy who hits tough shots, like I don't know, it just kind of hit me a little bit when I read that quote. I'm like, man, like he's not going to probably
Yeah.
play for us again. Um, and I've given my takes on in different aspects and different platforms about, I just posted a video about the Niang fit and the Levert fit. I don't think it's bad by any means. I think the Hawks may have gotten better. But I just want to take that moment and talk about like what meant to me, why they meant something to the city, to the Hawks, and to me personally. Like it is going to be different for sure. But hopefully it's a good type of different, and those guys will thrive, and I think they will in their respective situations. So with that out the way, um, let's turn to tonight's game. I feel like I'll kick it off highlighting a Hawk. This has to go to Mouhamed Gueye. He had himself a special performance, a double double, his first career, I believe. 15 points, 12 rebounds, 2 steals, 4 emphatic blocks. He did go 1 for 5 from three. Didn't feel like it, and he basically made every other shot he took. Was 5 of 6 in the paint. Um, or actually no, he was 5 for 5 in every other aspect. 2 of 2 from the free throw line, only 1 foul, 2 offensive rebounds. Really great performance from him. And I know Hawks fans have been like clamoring for him to play, to stop to like to get some minutes and not be in the G League. But I don't think he has this game without the G League. The G League is the reason why he was ready, the reason why he was able to accommodate and sort of like acclimate to the system. And there were still some moments where like he wasn't confident defensively, he wasn't in the right position, but he has such athletic gifts and such a gifted wingspan that like he was just able to make up for it. And he definitely made a difference in tonight's game. I mean, he closed the game out. That's not typical. He's a two-way guy. He's a young guy, and he closed the game out against a competent, if not a somewhat reeling Bucks teams in terms of availability. He had himself a night. So what do you think about his night? And then who would you want to highlight from the Bucks side?
Man, he was elite. That was a lot of good stuff from him out there. I mean, the defensive stuff is crazy, like you said. Like, you can't teach just the length at the rim, and just some of the stuff he was doing. Some of the stuff he was doing, that block on Brook was insane. There's not too many people who are just blocking Brook when Brook actually tries to dunk the ball instead of like you know push it up there for some reason like he tries to do. But Yeah, that's for another day. No, but he was really, really good though. I was really surprised with how well he played. And then my buck, I would go with Gary. I thought Gary was really, really good today. Gary like has these stretches where he goes from playing like really wild or like wildly inconsistent, but then he has these stretches like he's on right now where he hits everything. He started to play pretty good defense lately. I really liked what he brought on ball. I mean, it's not wasn't like first team all defense type stuff, but I mean it was competent on ball stuff. I thought the Bucks were getting killed on the ball all game by pretty much everybody else, but I thought he played really well.
No, I definitely agree. And it's he was a difference maker, I think, in that second half. He kind of checked in alongside Kuzma. Like the first couple of Kuzma minutes were shaky. The Hawks went on a run, but they settled down, got in their bag defensively, and then just did not miss a shot. And we'll talk about that too because you guys made 10 straight threes, which was ridiculous. I think from my perspective, I was I know how you feel about Bobby Portis, so I won't say Bobby Portis. But
Hey, he had a good game tonight. I mean,
yeah,
for the most part, I think it was solid. So
yeah,
that's
I'll have to
fine.
I have to give Bobby a shout out then 26, 15, and 6. 10 for 20. Like I can't believe he was the leading shot like like he led in shot volume. But he was a plus 10
Man,
in this.
that
Also played the most minutes of anyone on the court. So he was a big part of that run in the second quarter that flipped the Hawks lead from 12 to 19. Bobby was on the floor for that. He finished as a plus 10 in 38 minutes. The Bucks were minus 15 in the minutes that he was off the floor. So definitely had himself a big game. He was a he was a plus 20 in the second quarter, like I said. So he had himself a game, and I think that this is the type of stuff that he can like the scaling up stuff is still valuable. Like I know the defensive fit. Sometimes it can be shaky with him and Giannis, or definitely with him and Brook. But I think there's still value there offensively. I know that you recognize it too. Even if he is incredibly frustrating, it's kind of like the same thing that we've been dealing with DeAndre Hunter for a minute. Is like when the shot is falling, like he's nearly impossible to take off the floor because he's that level of a shot maker. But that doesn't mean he's not still giving up things up on the other end. I didn't feel like he was that bad on defense tonight. What was your read on that though?
yeah, I don't think the defense was like god awful like we've seen it previously. Funny enough, I think he did let Muhammad get behind him on that like just I don't
That
remember
was a very
specifically when it was.
yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
I think he just snuck behind him and Bobby was ball watching. But I mean, I'm not gonna kill him for that, I mean, shit happens. But yeah, I don't think he was terrible defensively. I mean, 50% is good. There's not too many ways to shake that to say like, oh, that was bad. I mean, shots fall, 15 boards really helped. And they needed all the buckets he gave them tonight.
Yeah, facts. And then from the Hawks perspective, is there anyone you would highlight besides Trey Young? I mean, not Trey Young. I'm sorry, Mohamed Gay.
I would go with Trey. I don't think he had the best night, but I think just his passing man is next level stuff. Like I don't what did he only have today? 7 assists, I think, right? Is that him? 7 assists, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but the skip passes he makes, the reads he's able to make, and just the attention he draws, it's really good. Um, like when you talk about the best passers in the league, people like to bring up Luca and Halliburton, but he has to be in that conversation. He's just elite level passer of the ball.
No, I definitely agree. And he had some like people missed some shots too. Like he probably should have had more. So
Yeah,
let's hop into the actual game here and look at a couple clips.
it's
Starting off,
disgusting.
let's start off looking at this momentum in this lead tracker. This was a wild game. You don't typically see like this little like fluctuation back and forth. You know what I mean? Like it was either the Hawks were up big, the Bucks were up big, or they were getting absolutely blasted and the lead was dissipating. And from the Hawks perspective, like I even from the first couple moments, I think you guys had 20 points and we both had like about 20 points by the like 6 minute mark of the first quarter. It didn't feel like we were playing
Mhm.
good defense at all. It just felt like we were making a lot of shots. And once our shot making slowed down and the turnovers started picking up, it started to get pretty ugly. So in this second quarter, again, Bobby Portis was a plus 10 in I think like 10 or 11 minutes. in the second quarter. So that was it was pretty big. Gary Trent Jr. was really good during that stretch as well. The Hawks played Garrison Matthews, and this is actually it's an encouraging thing, but it's also just like I don't know why they keep doing it. Well, I do know Garrison Matthews played about 6 minutes in this game, right? He played his stretch was at the end of the first quarter, or just in the beginning of the second quarter. He played 5 minutes, minus 12, took 2 shots. I think their approach with Garrison is okay. This is a really dynamic shooter. If he starts making shots, he's a legit asset offensively. If he's not making shots, then he will kill us. And so what Quinn will do is he'll put him out there, see if he has it tonight, and if not, he's not going to play for the rest of the game. I think that's a fair approach. But he did the same thing against the Spurs, and that's the reason we lost that game. Like we got down even bigger against San Antonio, and we weren't able to climb our way back. Do you? Because I know AJ Green is like I don't even want to put him in those combos. I know he's improved so much more as a defender. Can you think of like I guess Pat maybe, but even he wasn't like. Have you ever seen a coach do something like that where it's like, okay, we know this guy probably isn't going to be like he's so dependent on the shot making, but it's like so streaky. Like, have you ever seen Glenn do that or Bud do that?
You know what's funny is like I think I would really love if Doc did that with Andre Jackson Jr. Like it's not the shot making,
Mhm.
but it's like the defense. Like, can Andre
Mhm.
go in there and just be disruptive? Like, will it work offensively, defensively? Like, can it work? If not, just sit him down for the rest of the game. Because right now, what they're doing with him is they're starting him. They'll start him at the beginning of each half, and like they basically won't play him again after he's taken out. Like, I just don't love that approach. I would, much rather, try him, and if it doesn't work, just don't put him in for the rest of the game. So it's like not exactly what you're talking about, but with the defense, you know what I mean?
No, that definitely makes sense. And I think even for him, like I think he's both of these guys are matchup based, right? But I think for Garrison, like we know that Andre can bring defense every night. So it makes sense, like, okay, against this matchup, let's give him a little bit more of an extended run or something like that.
Right.
Let's just see what he can do. And I'm not mad at Quinn for doing this. I just think it can't be 5 minutes and it can't be this egregiously apparent that we're getting blasted when Garrison's on the court. You know what I mean? That's my only critique. I understand why he does it. But it would contributed to us being in a 21-point hole, which is not a great place to be. And if this is on the road, then it's probably a loss. You know what I mean? Like I feel like coaches probably do take a little bit more risk when they're at home. They have a little bit more of a buffer. But you guys scored 73 points on 53 field goal attempts in the first half. That was a 51% field goal percentage. That is equivalent to 140.4 offensive rating. Now, while I'm pulling these clips up, I texted you during the game. I was like, yo, have y'all ever moved the ball like this? And you said this is the first time you've seen it all season. What do you think what do you think clicked in that second half? Because that was with Kuzma on the floor. That was a group of guys who have never played together before, but the ball was popping.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a group in there with Kuzma at the 4, Bobby at the 5, and then the following group, something similar. I think it might have been Brooke at the 5 and then Kuz at the 4, but I think Kuz almost closed that quarter. I thought he had a really good stretch in that first half in the second quarter specifically. Um, yeah, I don't know off the first watch like what it was, but that group was yeah, the ball was popping. I think AJ and Gary might have been in there at the same time to go along with Kuz. So if
Mm.
if he's in there, if those three are in there, and then you have Dame or Rollins um, at the 1, I mean that's a solid group. I like that group offensively and defensively. So um, yeah, I would like to see that group a little bit more going forward too.
Yeah, so you mentioned Ryan Rollins, you mentioned Gary Trent Jr. You said those guys have found their footing lately. For Hawks fans who may not be familiar with Ryan Rollins, he is a Golden State Warriors draft pick. Um, I'm trying to remember what trade brought him there. I don't know
The
why I'm
pool
blanking.
trade.
Poole, yeah. So Poole, he ended up in Washington, right? And
Yep.
then
Yeah.
somehow he got to you guys. He seems like a real dude to me. But the 3-point shooting was electric from you guys, and even like the Hawks were just letting like the pick and roll defense was bad. AJ Green getting paint touches is not great. Like that's all due respect to him, but it's like here, and this is terrorist number one, Garrison Matthews. He's getting screened here and he can't really make an impact. Trey almost gets a hand on this ball. And then that's a good pump fake by Gary Trent. You guys were clicking. Like, yeah, I was definitely like somewhat in panic mode. The pick and pop with Bobby Portis is working all night too. So here Larry has to help. That's good effort, and I love this from Trey. He just gets the ball over him. You probably and also like we'll get to the third quarter and the fourth quarter because you'll see the difference. When Bobby was catching this ball in the beginning of the first half, there wasn't a rotation from Mouhamed Gueye here, right? And so what the Hawks did do in the second half was guys were ping ponging around. They were Xing out and passing off assignments. So here, Larry Nance has to make a long closeout. Bobby Portis knocks it down. You guys are manufacturing good shots pretty much every time down the court in the second half. And a lot of it is just, look, you have two guys on the floor who are really going to struggle when they get screened by a good screener. Like, this is a very small lineup for the Hawks. Like, Larry Nance is in a true 6'10". You got Garrison Matthews and Krejci out there. It's tough to defend in these moments. And then here's the threat from Bobby Portis being that pick and pop big. There's not even a pump fake here. Like, Larry jumps before he even gathers, and then Bobby Portis is getting to the rim. I thought it was really good offensive process from you guys. And I know, like, I don't know if you'll see do you think this is like a feasible second? Like, is this the type of guys you'll see in the second unit, like with Giannis healthy, with everyone healthy, you think? Like, with Bobby at the 5, or do you think maybe it'll be some Jericho Sims? What are you thinking?
Man, so this has like been the talk of like the last few days since Chris got sent out. Is like, so without Chris, even at Chris's worst, he was a really good initiator of the offense. He was a really
Mhm.
good table setter for other guys. You know what I mean? So now you're asking guys like Gary, guys like Bobby, to really create offense in these second groups. I think Dame and Giannis, there's going to be one of them out there all the time, but like you're still asking a lot of these guys, and for that to I mean, that you're asking these guys to do that versus really good teams, right? With all due respect to the Hawks, I mean, you're hoping you have to do this. Like, you're gonna ask your guys to do this against the Celtics and Cavs. Like, I don't know
Mhm.
how feasible that is. It doesn't sound feasible. And even tonight, you see in the second half, like the offense was awful in the second half.
Yeah. And no disrespect taken. I know what you mean by that. And again, even this version of the Hawks was able to adjust and shut down this offense, this sort of like
Right.
very shooting reliant offense that you don't really have it. There's no initiator on the floor, if we're being quite honest.
Yeah.
Like, the
Yeah. For
closest you
sure.
have is Ryan Rollins, and then you're pretty much playing through Bobby Portis. Now, when Kuzma made this, I was like, okay, like, I mean, Kuzma kills us all the time. I was expecting another Kuzma game. Um, but when you
That's
just like,
funny.
I do like, I know, like, one thing that I found interesting that the Hawks said, or like the Hawks have said about their bench units, is they play out of structure, right? So Quinn says, okay, when Dyson's on the floor without Trey, we're just gonna run. We're gonna be random. We're gonna create chaos. We're gonna do whatever we can to just try and catch teams off guard. And I think maybe that's the type of approach that you guys can take, like when you have younger guys on the floor, like just run, try to be disruptive, have Gary up and guys. Maybe that's the path go forward because that's what's worked for the Hawks in our bench minutes, and that's what worked tonight against you guys. But I mean, like, the more I just watch these clips, like, it's just pretty evident you guys were able to get whatever you wanted. And like, here's a good example of like Gary Trent being disruptive. I know you were talking about you were high on his defense coming in. How has that sort of aged throughout the season? Has it gotten better over time? Where are you at with not right now with his perimeter defense?
I think this is probably the best it's been this season. He's had like a really good stretch lately of him just being slightly better. Like I said, it's not first team all defense stuff, but it's competent point of attack defense. And I think, you know, if you can get that from a min guy, that's pretty solid, man. Especially with someone who has the potential of shooting the lights out like Gary does.
Yeah, and this is a really good closeout from him. It's not easy to have your hands up and then get your hands right back down in the position to take it away on the rip through. Like, guys get burned on that all the time. Like I said, it wasn't just a shot making from you guys. You're able to force a lot of turnovers. At this point, you still scored 22 points, I think, or even more. What did y'all finish with? Like 70? Yeah, you finished with 73. So you scored like 33 points or like something like that. I think, and I have my opinions about Brook. We'll talk about a little bit later on the defensive side, but there were you guys were able to create a lot of issues with the double bigs and the screening. So the Hawks kind of wanted to pinch early. That's what we've been doing all season. And this is a good read from Damian Lillard here, who honestly is like again, like the only initiator here. You have to respect Brook in the paint, and so he's able to get it over to Gary Trent, runs him off the line. Like this is great offense. This is great offense. The Hawks are doing what they can, but by the time you guys were in rhythm, I mean, you start hitting shots like that, right? And so I think, and I want to point out some of the things that the Hawks did well defensively, but there was no Giannis tonight. I don't think I've said that yet. Also, like my friend, she's on the women's basketball team for Georgia Tech. He was practicing at Georgia Tech today, so I don't think like I hope they're just like it's a precautionary thing with it. It's a calf thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think pregame versus the Hornets, I think they played last. They said the calf tightened up. There was a little clip of it, and I don't know if it's the same calf that like forced them to be out the playoffs last year, but yeah, I would hope they go down the precautious route with that.
Yeah. So the thing is, like I mentioned the split, or did I? I actually can't remember if I said it or not. Yeah. So you guys scored 73 points on 51% in the first half. The second half, Atlanta held the Bucks to just 37 on 44 field goal attempts. So that's 32% from the field, a 75.5 offensive rating. And I thought the biggest difference maker here was like they were passing off assignments just way, way better. So I'm going to pull up a couple clips. I want to ask you too. Now, the thing about no Giannis is you guys only took 17 shots in the restricted area and you shot 77%. And so what I think that speaks to is you guys still have the size, you still have the strength to finish in the paint, but it's just tougher to generate those looks with, again, like your only initiator being Dame. And I
Right.
think part of the reason why they took so many threes tonight, you guys took the second most threes of any game this season. Like you took 50. I think the most you've taken was 56, and that was against Toronto.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Do you think like is I know it's kind of like you're trying to make up for 30 points. So I understand why it's so many 3-point attempts. And you also don't have guys who can create those paint touches reliably. Like, what did you think about the overall shot profile? Did you feel like it was too many threes? Do you think it was a result of just Giannis not playing? Like, what was your overall feel on that?
Honestly, I think in the second half they passed up good threes. Um, yeah, so I think they could have shot more. I think they were being a little bit gun shy in the second half. I didn't feel like they got up that many. I think now that you say it, now maybe they did get up a good amount, but yeah, when you're trying to make up for 30 points on good efficiency, it's going to be tough to you know get to that number. So I think they do have the team that can get hot, and that amount of threes can be fine. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm definitely not mad at the shot profile overall today.
Especially when you have I think Dame was what, 3 for 10, something like that. Like
I think
that's
he was
not gonna
4 for 13 from three, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh
Let's
wow.
see.
Yeah, I didn't realize he took that many. Like it honestly didn't feel like he shot the ball that much. Um, but so I wanted while you're pulling that up, I wanted to show
Yeah, 4 for
how
13.
much better the Hawks were with scrambling. Right. So here they have 2 on the ball with Dyson Daniels here. Trey, who was matched up against Torian Prince here, he's gonna fly Brook. And then you see that as soon as Trey leaves, as soon as Trey goes to Brook, Onyeka's going to Torian Prince, and then Zach's coming over to pick up Bobby Portis. And now they have all the holes plugged up. And it ends up being instead of an open standstill three, Torian has to move. And he ends up missing that three. And the other big thing too, you guys, I honestly just need your help with this because I don't understand how this is possible. Um, you guys are 7th in the league in defensive rebound percentage. So a very strong defensive rebounding team. The Hawks only had 3 offensive rebounds in the first half. So that was good. That was evidence of that. But you guys are 25th in total rebound percentage because you're 30th on the offensive glass. Do you have you picked up on that? Like, is it because they're trying to get back? Like, do they just not prioritize offensive glass? Is it because Giannis is typically driving and they convert that, and then Brook is on the perimeter? Like, I'm honestly kind of shocked that it's that big of a disparity.
It's kind of a combination of all those things. Like you can see right here, Brook is on the above the break, because
Yeah,
he has to get back. If he's not able to get back, this it's no good. I mean, there was a thing. I mean, we're constantly beat in transition, right? I think the transition defense has gotten better, but like getting Brook back is priority number one at all times
mm,
that he's on the floor. So, you'd love to put him in the dunker and have guys crash the offensive glass, but getting back is priority number one because this team is old and they take a few more seconds to get back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense, and that's what I kind of thought. Like this team is prioritizing getting back, but what I think they did pretty well is Bobby Portis is a phenomenal rebounder. He had 15. But when the Hawks can double team him on the glass and you have your guards being physical with him, like I think this was a difference maker because if Dyson's down there by himself, this is probably a rebound for Bobby, but he's got to deal with Barlow there too as well. So they're doing a great job gang rebounding. They also had I'm gonna pull up another clip, but as I'm talking, I was curious too. You guys had 5 offensive rebounds in the first half. Finished with just 2 in the second half, so finished with a total of 7 and 0 second chance points after 13 second chance points in the first half. And it felt to me too like 2 of those. Here's the funny thing: the 2 guys who got the most offensive rebounds for the Bucks tonight were Damian Lillard and Andre Jackson Jr. And to me, that says 2 things: they're prioritizing guards crashing, which makes sense because Brook has to get back, and then Andre's like sort of impact as a rebounder. You talked about how they haven't really been playing him much. I am somewhat worried, like, will he be able to still get run now that you have Kuzma? So where do you stand on that? Like, what do you think about like the overall, I guess, sort of trend with Andre Jackson? Do you think he could be cut out the rotation? Do you think like he brings enough defensively on the glass to justify more minutes? Like, where do you think he ends up?
I mean, honestly, the like I don't think the defense has been to the level where it justifies, the stuff that it brings offensively and, the spacing conundrum, with him on the floor, and then now you're adding in Kuz, so you probably have to put a shooter there. So, whether that's Green or whether that's Gary, I think that spot has to go to a shooter, and then from there, I mean, they have a decent amount of twos, wings that they can technically play. So, I mean, like we were talking about earlier, if there's a matchup you like, I think, I mean, because he did a really good job against Shea. He's played really good. He's played really well against those lead guards where you need someone to shut them down, and you're willing to sacrifice whatever it is on the offensive end. But I mean, yeah, the defense just hasn't been to the level where you can sacrifice mediocre defense with mediocre offense.
No, that definitely makes sense, and that's something I think we're trying to figure out too. Like sort of like what's the I think we talked about this last time. Like, how do you find that balance between like defense and offensively tilted lineups? And
Yeah.
obviously around Giannis, like it's you're gonna have to place a premium on shooting, and if you can't do both, it's gonna be kind of tough to build something. Um, I want to pull up one of these clips too. So the Hawks have had like some interesting sort of like lineup decisions, right? And especially going forward too, you're bringing in Karis LeVert, Terrence Mann, Georges Niang. Our 4 spot and like our overall size is going to get a lot better. But you have these young guys in Mouhamed Gueye and Dominic Barlow who are really making a case to get more minutes, honestly. And the more that I watch them, it's just kind of like I don't know how you can kind of keep these guys off of the floor. But I want to point out a little bit more of the switching. So I got to get exactly to the timestamp. I think it was about like 3 minutes left. Um, like they were just kind of flying around defensively, and this really made a big difference. It's this possession after the free throws. 1 second. I feel like free throws take way too long in the NBA. Like that's 40 seconds right there. So here we go.
Try to be
Dice
honest.
is Dice is on Dame, taking the ball up the court. So they're gonna run Bobby off this sort of screen by Dame. Good action to get
I
him
hated
moving.
this possession.
Let's let it play out, and then you tell me why you hate it. So here comes the screen from Brook. The Hawks are temporarily switching it right now. Here, as Dyson gets walked down by Brook here, I want everyone to pay attention to what Dame Dyson does. He says, "Okay, Mo, you get Brook Lopez. I'll space out to Bobby Portis," and then he's able to run off Torian Prince, and then look at everyone else rotate. Trey's right there for Gary Trent, and then Dyson comes back into the play, gets a great contest on Dame. So talk to me.
Yeah.
What did you hate about this possession?
I just think okay, so if you go back to the top, like to yeah, so right here, right? If you can just play it from right there, like we're just getting into the offense so late, man. Like this initial action is happening with 15, 14 seconds on the clock. The ball is just getting back to, the action that you actually want, right? You're trying to get to this Brook Dame little screen at the top. Where
Yeah.
this is starting with 10 seconds, man. And then okay, so you get the switch, but the switch is on Yeko Okongwu. Like, I mean, I think Dame he has to eat that and he has to try to attack right there. Like 6 seconds left, and I think TP's open, and I think that's one of the shots I mentioned. I think that has to go up.
Hmm.
Like Dyson's able to get a really good closeout. He even closed out on that Dame shot pretty well, but one of these shots has to go up, man. I just don't love it. But I mean that goes back to what we talked about, right? Dame is your only initiator of offense on the floor. Like it's just really tough to live like that.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are lucky enough to have Giannis typically, right? So he solves a lot of this. But I think even like I don't know what this action is supposed to be. Like there's no intention here. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing there. So it's just kind of a waste of 5 seconds. And it lets the Hawks just sort of set their defense. And he's reading the situation. He's like, okay. And the other thing is too, like Torian Prince is sitting really high, right? Like that's somewhat out of his range, and he's lifting more and more instead of like, you know what I mean? Like I understand he wants to create more space from the closeout, but he's just lifting more and more, which makes that shot even harder. Um, let's go a little bit earlier in the fourth quarter. So I mentioned some of the rebounding stuff. It was about 10 minutes to go. The Hawks were just really good on the glass. Also, I think the fourth quarter is. Oh, I gotta let this play. So this is the Mo Gueye highlight reel, and this is where you were talking about where like I've seen Brook Lopez put plenty of dudes on posters in this. I remember when he did this to us in the conference finals. He just rose up and it was probably Capella. Mouhamed Gueye, like look at his hand,
How
and this
tall
is
is
all
he?
Mo Gueye. He's 6'10" or 6'11",
6'10".
but he has a ridiculous wingspan. It's like 7'5", I believe, something like that. He only just now
On
started
our
playing basketball.
broadcast, they said Dyson Daniels' wingspan is 7'1". That's accurate?
That sounds accurate. I know it's like +5-ish, so that sounds about accurate. Moge is
That's pretty insane
6'11",
too.
7'4", 7'3" wingspan. So the Hawks are putting a lot of length around, and also like for any Bucks fans who are watching, you're probably like, who is? Oh wait, they said how big was Dyson Daniels' wingspan?
7'1", I think they said.
No. It's like 6'11". I don't know where they got that from.
Okay. Maybe it
But
wasn't him. It might I mean, I thought I heard that, but maybe not.
I'm not sure. But for Bucks fans who are like, okay, who's Mo Gay? Why is he cooking us? Here's the thing, like, valid question, right? You know, he hasn't played many consequential NBA minutes. Um, but he's always had these moments. Like he's like, don't get me wrong, like this isn't just a nobody, right? Like he was drafted pretty relatively high in the second round for a reason, but he's always been incredibly raw. And what you saw tonight was him putting it together on both ends. Shot it confidently, 1 for 5. Like he's gonna get him up. He's probably not gonna make a lot of them, but he's gonna get him up. The defense was really
It's a good
good.
looking shot for someone his size.
It
It's
is.
not awful.
Yeah, and even here, like his footwork was amazing. Like this is really calm, really poised, smooth hook shot. Then here he just pulls up for the mid, he knocks it down all net. He had that block on Kuzma, which I'll definitely show later. I was stunned because I thought Kuzma had him, but he just
I
sort of
did
walked him
too.
down step for step. Like Kuzma, I definitely thought Kuzma had him on that drive. So let's
Yeah.
get to this defensive possession right here, right? So this is after Keaton Wallace was able to force a turnover. He slapped the ball out of Ryan Rollins' hands, right? Hawks challenged it. They ended up getting the ball back. So the Bucks come out. Yo, the stoppages are so long in NBA games. I never realized this in real time. So it's 24 seconds on the shot clock, I think. Wait a minute. Hold on. Was it our ball? Yeah, it was our ball. Sorry. Yeah, so we had an offensive possession first, then we came back down. So let's get to the defense because that's the point of interest right now. So I want you to pay attention to what Vit Krejci does here. So first they call the foul, then it's a side out play. Here comes, okay, here it comes right here. So the Bucks are going to inbound the ball, and I mentioned earlier like how intentional the Hawks are about bringing help early. So even before Ryan Rollins starts dribbling, Vit Krejci is coming over to the middle of the floor, and we talked about this multiple times already on this pod. They're trusting that Ryan Rollins can't make this pass, and he can't. He doesn't, and this allows him to muck up the paint. He doesn't have visibility on Derry Bird, and when he does make that pass, it's a little bit too late, and then the Hawks are able to X out, right? So if he makes this pass as soon as Garrett, like this, and this is like, no, this is not the type of pass a backup point guard typically makes in the NBA. So I'm not faulting him by any means, but if he makes the pass here, right, that's a completely different thing than opposed to making it here where Larry Nance has a shorter closeout because he's ready to close out. So I think the Hawks were really on their P's and Q's defensively. This is one of the few offensive rebounds that you guys got. And even here, it's another pull-up three. It's a good test from Gueye. And then watch the Hawks guard right here. So this is Keaton Wallace. He slaps the ball out of Bobby Portis's hands, and the Hawks are going the other way. So I think that's the attention to detail, but it's also just like the lack of dynamic personnel that you guys have on the floor. So as much as I think that's great defense by the Hawks, it's just knowing your personnel, knowing that these guys may be a little bit more limited than some teams you'll play on a regular basis. But I was really impressed by the attention to detail, the consistency with defensively, especially like it's hard to dig down into a team after they've been killing you offensively, right? Like it's really easy to get discouraged. Here's a good graphic too. 51% from the field in the first half, 29% at this point in the third/fourth quarter. Have you seen a scoring drought for the Bucks like this, or like do you think this was, obviously no
This was
Giannis, but
pretty
like have you seen?
dramatic.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been smaller spurts, but like, yeah, this. I mean, a whole half like that. That was nasty hoops. There's nothing good about that half offensively.
Yeah, so I want to get, so here's a mid-range, that is a rare mid-range pull-up by Trey. I want to show some more of Mo Gueye's defensive versatility before we get into the blocks and some other stuff. So here you're gonna see him navigating screens with Kyle Kuzma. He's able to get through this gap between Bobby and Larry. That's really good. Shuts off that drive. He has some tools, like as a versatile defender. Here you get the sort of elevators from Gary Trent and Bobby Portis. They're looking for a pull-up three. Bobby here decides to not roll and sort of just backs out to play. I think if he rolls here, this is a different shot, right? Like, I don't know if, I mean, maybe Gary still puts this up, but there's a gaping hole here, and Bobby's just kind of backing up. Does he do that? Or like, does he typically roll? Or I know he's like a pick and pop big mostly, but I was just kind of like, he probably could have.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
he
I mean
probably could
that's
have
good
gotten a
coverage
block.
from the Hawks right there. Like in the first half, they got a ton of looks like that from him just picking and popping. So I mean that's pretty good coverage. Yeah, he's got a roll there. Just got to feel it out, and Trey. I think that was Trey on his back, so he got a roll there.
So here's the play that we were talking about. Kuzma, at this point, I'm like, Kuzma has a step. This is a layup. And Mouhamed Gueye goes up and pins that against the backboard, keeps it in play. Hawks go the other way. And AJ Green gets a big stop. I put on the notes, is it blasphemous for me to say that I see some Giannis in him? Is that blasphemous?
A really really young Giannis, it's in there. He's
I'll
really
take.
quick on his feet, man. He can move like guys who are that big and can move. Like I mean, it's funny because we talked about it with Jalen Johnson last time, but like guys like that can move. They're really rare. Like that's not something that's common at all. So I mean, those guys, you hope they pan out for sure.
Yeah. So here's the other block that he got on another possession. So Dane's back on the floor. Bobby sets the screen. He's looking to pop, so he doesn't roll. The Hawks are sort of spread out here. Bobby's able to sneak behind the defense. Dyson's kind of like just guarding nothing, which isn't common. Dame reads it. The pass is a little low, and it gives Mouhamed just enough time to get back to the ball, which this is a crazy defensive play. And also, like on the broadcast, you could hear Quinn Snyder saying, Mo, rotate, 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 telling him like that Bobby was coming. It took him a little bit to recognize it. But this is the recovery skills I'm talking about. Like, this is just talent. Like, he's not in the right position at all. And so, like, when he does figure it out, I think he could be really special. And not to belabor, like, the Giannis comp, but when did you feel like Giannis figured it out defensively? Like, in terms of positioning, timing, like, when did you were like, okay, this is going to be like a, I'm not saying that, again, not saying Gueye could be that level defender, just saying like the positioning, when you have these tools, if you don't have the positioning, it doesn't matter. Like, look at Jalen Duren. That dude is like a Greek god, ridiculous physique, blessed with verticality. But if he doesn't, he never has his positioning right, so it doesn't matter. So when you guys get that, that's when they become great defenders. So I'm just curious, what was that curve like for Giannis, and when did you feel like he was okay? He had figured it out.
I think that first year with Bud, I think Bud really helped him, or just helped the team defense. You know what I mean, and just allowed Giannis to be in more positions, like just in position more frequently to be able to make those types of plays. Because I think it was there, but just a lot of the time, just like you said, just kind of being out of position sometimes by himself, sometimes just due to just the team not being in position. Um, and I think that year was the year they got Brook Lopez. So just a combination of those two things really help, just keep him in a position to be able to make those plays when they're available.
That was 2019 when y'all got Bud.
2018, I think so. 2018.
Oh, it was like a midseason thing, right?
No, I think
Or was it?
they got Bud during the summer. They fired Kid during the season, let Prunty ride it out, and then got Bud.
Gotcha. Okay, so and then for Hawks fans, that was his 6th season in the NBA. So it's like it takes time. I know that people don't like hearing that. I know that everyone wants everyone to be really good right now, and I get it. But like I said earlier at the start of the show, people really wanted him playing earlier, and I understand the argument. Like there was no reason, and there's no reason in hell we should have had David Roddy playing consequential minutes if we were going to be a serious basketball team. I don't know. Like I still have no explanation for that. I'm assuming maybe they wanted to see if he had anything before he did inevitably get cut. But I believe me, I hear the frustration. I get it. But I think it's just like these guys need reps so badly, and they're gonna hurt the team. I don't think Giannis was. I don't remember much of rookie Giannis or like really young Giannis. I don't think he was ever like a super big detriment. But that's what Mo Gueye would have been if he got these reps. And so I want to pivot a little bit.
The Bucks are so bad that it wouldn't have mattered.
You said they're bad at what?
I said
Oh,
the Bucks were so bad, back then that it's probably not even mattering in those days.
Got you. Yeah, we kind of like don't have that luxury. Like unfortunately, like,
for sure.
Got a guy. Like I'm not saying we're some amazing team, but we got a guy who needs a lot of reps when we're trying to like turn the page. And so that's a little bit. I want to talk about Dyson before we turn it back to like some of the rotation questions around Milwaukee. Dyson played 38 minutes tonight, 15.6 rebounds, 10 assists. He has been incredible as an offensive player while still being that level defender that we all love him for. And I'm honestly like running out of adjectives to describe just how great he is and how good he's been. So 10 assists tonight. He created 23 points. 4 of those assists were to Onyeka Okongwu. They're getting really great chemistry, particularly on the interior. Over his last 10 games, he's averaging 16 points, 5 assists, 7 rebounds, 2 steals, or almost 3 steals, and he has a 57.4 true shooting percentage. He's getting to the free throw line about 4 times per game. So like, I've made a lot of comps to like Derek White. I'm kind of getting to the point where like, yo, he could be better. And it's the stuff like this, like attacking off the dribble. Like Taurean Prince is not a slouch defensively. This is stuff I see Dame do. This is stuff I see Trey do. Like gather into the.
That's a really good move right there. That's like high level.
coming. Like, yeah, like this is like I know you've seen Dame do this plenty of times. CP3, James Harden. This is a rip, gather and finish through the contact with touch. Like
Them
this
giving
is
him the continuation on that is kinda crazy, I'm not gonna lie to you.
okay. Okay,
But,
let's
I'll let you have it though, I'll let you have it.
let's be fair. You guys got a BS continuation in the first half, and
Did
also
we?
yes, y'all did. I don't remember who it
Hey, but
was,
they robbed Dame of 2 in the second half. 2
bro.
and 1.
That second half was not an and one. That was on the floor.
Oh, man.
Uh,
Okay.
we get like we have really bad luck with continuation. It's probably Trey's fault. Well, not his fault, but like the way he's viewed by the refs.
Yeah.
So you could argue. I think he's gathering the shoe here. I mean, I don't know. It's semantics, but
I
regardless,
mean,
really
I
nice.
think a lot of them, they don't let get continuation or continuation, you know what I mean? Like, by the
Oh,
rule, I think if you know what I mean? But,
yeah,
whatever, that's for another day.
I think when a guy's doing this, like he's gathering the shoe, and also
Yeah,
like
for sure, that
I know.
yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about the foul baiting last time. Look at him jerk his head back. Like, come on, like that's craft.
No, that's
That's like
elite, yeah.
like,
That's
that's
elite
like,
stuff.
whoa. Like I'm like, okay, he's finding out how to create for himself, create free throw attempts. Like that's big. I think this one he just attacks uh AJ Green here, slips through. I think he also got elbowed here, I think, because he came out the game was holding his rib. Like this is a tight little crease. He's able to just get himself skinny, get the ball through, get it high without Ryan Rollins dislodging it. I think Rollins might even have a hand on it. He just rips it through, gets to the bucket. Nice little bucket from him. I'm looking for
Have
the
you
one
seen
where
a
he.
leap, like, from the beginning of the season until now, you think?
Oh man, it's like it's been exponential.
Is it?
Um,
Okay. That's
he
cool,
he's
man.
he's
That's
never.
really cool.
Yeah, it's like really. It's almost like I think we talked. Did we talk about this with the rookies or maybe it was another podcast? I was like, some of the best part about like having a rookie on your team is like seeing the incremental growth. Like from day to day,
Yeah,
from game to game. And Dyson has just he's blossoming, man. Like he's never scored 20 points in his career in the NBA until he came to the Hawks. Now he's done it 7 times. He's
it's
never
crazy.
gone to the free throw line this much. He's never been this efficient. He's never been this productive with the ball in his hands. Like it's honestly beautiful to see. And then here he's attacks Brook. Brooks kind of flat footed. He's giving him space, but it's not enough. And he just turns the corner, gathers, and he's able to beat him to a spot. And still,
That's a
Brook is
tough finish, man.
this is a tough, like Brook is there
I
and he
thought Brook had
finishes
a block right here. I was like, I mean, most of the time that's a Brook block for most.
like this is honestly a really good defensive rep from Brook. Even when Dyson got the step, like he's able to high point that. The ball like just gets over his hands. That's beautiful. Then we'll definitely have to look at some of the passing too, because he had some ridiculous passes. Here you see V. This is going to be a nice little skip pass. He knows Dame's typically teams will try and cut off the corner. So here comes out the Keaton. And then Dyson's all open, all wide open. And
Man, that
he's
three
he's been
hurt me, man. Man.
he's been pretty good on these shots though. And this is really good defense from y'all. Like these are the shots you want to cut off, like corner threes, and then the best shooters on the court, and leave it for Dyson, who has struggled a bit. That's just great defense, and he's able to knock that shot down. Oh, I didn't see this Selly. That's funny. And then we gotta look at the assists as well, real quick. He did a really great job finding Onyeka on the interior. I think I'm gonna start with that pass because it was so ridiculous. Also, Dame, this again, like Dame played this really well. So here comes V on the go screen. He's gonna dive a little bit. Gary gets off his feet. I'm not really sure he needed to do that. Dyson's gonna burst through Dame. Dame's playing the pass here, right? Like Dame's anticipating the pass, and Dyson throws it just far. Like the margin for error there is ridiculous. He throws it just far enough so that only Onyeka can get to it, and that's a wraparound around Brook through traffic. Um, special pass, special pass. I honestly need to go through all of them. So here he is attacking in transition. Like, this is a great read. Torian gives it up, so Brook is in position to help. Lob over the top. How have you felt about, like, I know you said something about Brook. Like, how you felt his defense has been?
Man, he's had probably like the worst 3 4 week stretch of his entire Bucks career. Like it's been terrible lately. Um, So I mean, the kind of was yeah, I would say I was hoping for something at the deadline, at least for one of Brook or Bobby. You know what I mean? Like them two in the game at the same time, man. They're just too slow. They're too flat-footed to play against. I mean, most teams in the NBA these days. Like it's a really tough ask for your point of attack defenders to be able to to constantly have to get over and fight over every single screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tough, man. It's been rough lately for Brook as he's
And
getting
this
yammed on right here.
this is also like a sneaky smart play from Dyson, right? So as he dumps us off, though, he just stands there, right? It's a bit of a screen, and Brook pushes him into Onyeka. They're just out of the way. So I think Brook wasn't in great position there. I don't put that all on him. Um,
I think TP's
I
also been like sneakily one of our worst defenders, like of the past month, 2 months or so.
who?
Torian Prince, he's been pretty bad.
Hmm. So I think this might be a good example here. So um, I just think that, and here's the thing, like, and I've talked about this with guys who like have similar sort of defensive weak points. It's tough when your defense is so locked in on trying to protect one guy, right? And I think that's what we see here from Brook. But where this has to be better is like Torian Prince, in my opinion. Like,
I think you could probably even start this at the top. You know what I mean? Like I don't like Keaton was. I don't know if Dame has to be helping right here. You know what I mean? Like Dame, that's a step towards Keaton, and I don't think
mhm,
you need that. You know what I mean? Like, and then that throws off everything else. So I wouldn't say it's all on Brook. Um, But I mean, it's just like stuff piling, you know what I mean? Like I don't think it's good defense here from just about anybody. I think Brook did, you can't ask much for Brook in this spot right here.
yeah, yeah, good point. And Dyson here, he's stampeding off the catch. Like
Yeah,
he's
I
not.
mean that's just you're putting yourself in really tough position right here to have to guard that guy on the catch. You know what I mean? Coming
Mhm,
downhill and Brook isn't ready to defend anything coming downhill right there.
mhm. And so ideally, like if Dame's guarding position is a little bit more square to the ball, this lane isn't open right here. Dyson doesn't get downhill,
Right. Yeah.
but Torian has to pinch this. Like he has
Yeah.
to get in.
Yeah.
So it's multiple failures for sure. Um, honestly, like still great effort from Brook. Like I think he is. It sucks because like I've seen the drop off, right? Like I told you we talked about it multiple times. What he's did to us in the 2021 playoffs, and like I think he's still one of like if there was a prototype unicorn big, it's Brook Lopez, right? But I mean, this is just not good. Like, but it's like they're disconnected. Like I don't know what Gary Trent is doing either. Like
Yeah,
there's
no, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like it's kind of like from all places, you know what I mean? Like, but I think it
like
just makes things like we play a ton of like it feels like every night we're playing a team like with a big that's like somewhat similar to Onyeka, right? That just a pure roller, or someone that's how tall is Onyeka? He can't be too not like 7 foot or
he's
anything, is
listed
he?
at 6'8".
Okay, I mean, but like just man, it has to be somebody just a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I mean, I don't think Jericho Sims is, crazy, but, like, I'm just watching his film, and he's able to, step up above that free throw line and just be, there a little sooner, you know what I mean? He doesn't have to be in that deep of a drop to have, just to defend the rim, so, I mean, man, it's tough.
Mhm. I think this is a miscommunication for sure. Gary Trent's just passing him off,
Yeah, he
but
passes that off, yeah.
he has no sight line on Onyeka, so it's like, and then he turns around too. Like that, that's the other thing. Like I don't know
Yeah.
what he was doing. Um, and it's a good read from Dyson. Like I said, 4 of his assists were to Onyeka, so they've definitely found some chemistry. And the beautiful thing is like Onyeka's been able to find him as a passer too, and I think that's unlocked a lot for our offense. I think this is him turning defense into offense. Bobby just kind of doesn't have his good grip on the ball. Ball pops out. Um, Shade, who was really good in transition. Like I think he has like I think he has a little bit more pop than he shows, but he was great getting out and running. Like he had a couple leaking out buckets pretty early in the game, and then on the third quarter as well. Here, just taking advantage of Lopez being deep. He's probably plays
Larry
the
Nance
deepest
could help
shot in
us.
the NBA. You said what?
Do you think Larry Nance could have helped us? Just like I don't just Larry Nance on the Bucks. Do you think he could help?
That's a good question. Honestly, he hasn't been good defensively for us, you know? Um, I don't know if I would call him switchable, but he was also better in the year earlier in the year when we were healthier, and he also, like, wasn't being
Mhm.
played as the only 5, and so that's why I'm like, I don't know if he would help y'all because he needs help. Feasibly, you would want, like, Giannis out there with him,
Right.
and
I
I
mean,
think
and that's the thought too, right? You know what I mean? Like you're not getting a big just to throw them out there by themselves, but like I think alongside Giannis, there's a archetypal guy that can, just theoretically be a little bit more versatile defensively. And that's just the thought with Larry Nance, who was in the range
mhm.
of, players potentially you're looking at the deadline. So yeah, I just had to
Yeah,
throw that in there real quick.
I mean, y'all had a first? I mean, man, I could have made some if it was but no, I mean, he's expiring, like, he probably would I don't know what salaries you had to match. Would it be like Pat, maybe? Who was the other guy y'all were trying to package?
I think Bobby would have worked straight up. I don't know if that's I like just going off how they moved. I don't think Bobby was really thrown out there for Larry Nance types, you know what I mean? With all due respect to him, unfortunately, you know what I mean?
Mhm. That makes sense. So here's the zone that you guys went to. I thought this was an interesting wrinkle. So here when Barlow switches corners, Torian Prince kinda abandons the zone, and
So they go to a matchup with
that's
under
what I thought.
10, or they try to, yeah. I mean, that's the plan, right? They just match up around 10. Um, but man, yeah, I mean, sometimes it works when teams start to catch on, like, okay, it starts to become a gimmick at points. Like they run it way too much. I mean, it's first quarter starting lineups, and they're trying to cover up by playing 2-3 zone.
Mm,
I get it, man. Like they're super old, and they're trying everything they can just to keep Brook in the lane and for guys not to get beat off the dribble so much. But at some point, man, it's like, golly, dude.
yeah. And this is kinda like Gary losing sight of Keaton again, like, he doesn't know where he is. Like, his closeout path is bad because he doesn't know where he is. Keaton
And
knocks
that's
that
just
shot down.
good. Like when teams figure out, like, okay, they're gonna play zone. You know what I mean? Like that's a screen play. I mean, that's a 2-3 zone play, right? Like Onyeka's gonna screen the middle, and then you're gonna have pretty much 2-on-1 on that left side. I mean,
Yep,
I don't know where the hell TP's going, but
yep.
but that's just stuff you see, right? When you play zone so frequently, teams start to know that, and they'll have stuff ready for the zone.
Yeah, it's a big reason why NBA teams don't play zone. We've played zone. We played a matchup zone against Indiana. When you play a team that's like not elite at getting downhill, like I think we have a lot more rim pressure than even Indiana without Jalen Johnson. Then it can
Hmm.
work. I think I understand why you guys went to that. Because it's just like at that point it was getting a little bit tough. Oh, I have just a couple more clips I meant to show. So around again in the fourth quarter, like some of that. Um, okay, here it is. So I know Hawks fans there's kind of like a mixed contingent on like these trade deep threes, right? My argument is okay if he takes these like the spacing he allows his teammates because guys have to guard him for this far is a win. This was a bad shot. Okay, it was almost a horrible shot. Especially because he held the ball. Like I don't like that. Like this is basically the play. Like let's play the entire 24, and let's see what Trade does. And he's been better at not doing this as often. But this is when I was like, oh Jesus, man, like we're about to blow it. So Gary's being physical. Trade kind of pushes him off. Okay, Trey's dribbling,
What is
dribbling.
Doc doing on the sideline?
I think he was upset about what he felt like was a no call. So here, you
Was it
watch
the
Trey
play? Okay, yeah.
right there,
Oh,
and
right
then
there. Yeah, right there. Okay.
and Doc is losing it. And then here the pullback. I feel like if you shoot it, it's got to be here. It has to be
Yeah,
here
I
if you.
thought it was gonna come right there. Yeah.
And then he dribbles into him again, and then doesn't really step back, just kind of pulls. And then now he's, yeah, not great. And then here's my fear. Now is Gary Trent, who has a size advantage,
Oh, Gary, man, he kills me right here.
and this is a
Him in
huge.
transition is like it's like you could man, like it's 50-50. Like the ball might not even go up most of the time. And he was doing fine for a good stretch, but then
Mhm.
he had this one. Tough,
And
man.
the help was coming. I know he saw Mo Gay coming, so this probably
Yeah.
leads to the hesitation. But that's a hell of a play by Trey. That's a hell of a
No,
play.
that's
Um, and if he doesn't do that, this could have been a loss, honestly, with the way that situation was unfolding. So just want to give Trey a shout out there because I think I don't think he's someone commented on my Twitter. He's like, he's not doing that last year. And I completely agree. Like he's been so much better, so much paying so much more attention to detail, switching out of stuff, scram switching. Um, so I want to finish by asking you, like, who do you think is starting with Giannis healthy? I know we had a preliminary conversation. We were saying, okay, well, Doc said something like, "Oh, we didn't trade for Kuz for him to come off the bench." So what do
yeah.
you think with that sort of lineup?
I would agree. Like, I mean, you don't make that trade to bring a guy off the bench, right? That guy probably has to start. That's just where the team's at. They probably need what that guy brings in. So yeah, I'm fine with that. Um, but then yeah, you probably have to get Andre Jackson Jr. out the starting lineup. I mean, the spacing with that group is like sounds like a monstrosity. So Kuz doesn't shoot it at a good enough clip for defenses to respect him, that much. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure they do to an extent, but you probably need like a true shooter in there to really help that spacing. And I think Gary has played pretty well off the bench. I mean, I'd be fine if he started, but like we were talking about before, you need someone in that second unit to help create. And I think Gary is more of that than AJ Green, obviously. So you probably throw AJ Green in there and see what he can do. Um, yeah, I would probably go with AJ.
Yeah, okay, I see that. So you're saying Dame, AJ, Kuz, Giannis, and Brook, right?
I mean, yeah, I mean, Brooke is kind of working my nerves right now, but I mean, I don't think there's been a better option right now, unfortunately.
Okay. And then now that you're sort of the dust is settled from the trade deadline, Cleveland added DeAndre Hunter, Boston added Torrey Craig. Um, where are you feeling about like the Bucks' chances among like some of the upper echelon teams and like their playoff chances?
Yeah. Man, this is like the first time in like what we say 2018, however many years it's been. Like I feel like the Bucks just aren't up to par with those teams at the top of the conference. You know what I mean? Even there was some years sprinkled in there where I was at
Mhm.
least the delusion can be seen. Like oh there's Giannis, but man, this like the 2 through 15 is just not great, man. It's not great. I mean, the Kuz numbers aren't great. I mean, I know he had a really good year last year. People like to point to that year that
Mhm.
he helped the Lakers win the chip, but even in those years, it wasn't, it's not like anything spectacular. It's solid ball. But
Yeah.
like for that to be your third, you're asking a lot of your 1-2. And I think, and I've said it the entire year, like I think the Bucks walk into most series with probably the best player in the series and then two of the best three. So I think you always got a puncher's chance with those two. But I mean, with this with this 3 through 15, you're really asking a lot of Giannis and Dame. So that's kind of been my thing the whole year, regardless of Chris or Kuz, whoever it is. Like, man, Dame and Giannis have to be like elite.
Yeah. Would you have done the Kuz deal? Like if you were the GM, like is that like what was your like first feel on that? I know we didn't get a chance to touch on that yet.
I mean, I understand why they did. I can see the stuff, right? Like Kuz is on a descending deal. I think there's
Mhm.
potentially some value to be had there or if he can get back to just shooting the ball or shooting in general efficiently. Um, that being said, man, I think there was some potential other options to explore. It sucks, like we talked about. Like, man, losing Chris is really man, that it just sucks, you know what I mean? Like, I think Chris has played some decent ball lately, I think
That's
even
I
in
was
like,
surprised too. Like I
yeah,
do
I mean,
he was blocked, but I mean he was looked like he was kind of rounding in the form.
yeah, I mean, there was some donuts sprinkled in there. There was a really bad game against the Clippers, but then, just what you lose with him being that third or that secondary, offensive creator or, whatever third. But in some of those bench lineups, he is a secondary, creator. He is the initiator of some of that offense. And it just takes a load off of Dame and Giannis's plate, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I mean, even at Kuz's best, he's not that. You know what I mean? There's some, if we want to talk about Kuz getting back to being, as efficient as possible, that means he has to take out some of that on ball, self creation stuff that we've seen with the Wizards. Like,
Yeah.
you can't have both. So it's going to be tough. I mean, I understand why they did it, unfortunately, but it sucks. Like, kind of punting on a Giannis year. You know what I mean? Just any year.
Yeah.
So it sucks not being really close to that upper echelon of teams in the East.
Yeah. So what I was sort of cycling through as you were talking about the fit, was Kuzma's like advanced stats. So if anyone isn't familiar, these it's basically like estimates of how much impact the player is contributing to their team winning. And this is like regular adjusted plus minus. So it's basically like an informed metric. Like the longer you play in the league, the more accurate it gets. And you could just see the downward descent that Kuzma has been in. And some of that is the concept, like the context he's been playing in, right? But to your point too, I think the type of shots he's taking really matters. Okay. So right in Washington, where he was the main guy, he was taking a lot of shots like out of creation looks. So that's isolation, that's pick and roll ball handling, that's post up. And he was nowhere near like league average on these looks, right? Like these are pretty bad numbers. In 2024, he was a lot better, but that's because he was a lot better as a finisher. But the good thing is, for the Bucks in general, like he's been relatively good on these finisher, like play finisher looks, right? So you see 60% true shooting, 64 true shooting in 2024, 63, almost 64 in 2023. And then his years in LA, he was a much more efficient player too, of course, playing off of LeBron and AD. So I think that the upside is there, but I think this is what worries me, right? Like the creation, this is not good by any means. Like these are pretty like bottom tier creator among like guys who actually get a lot of shots. Like
Right.
relative to like a general guy who's gonna be like, let's say if it's like a Torian Prince or something like that, obviously he's better there. He can make those shots, but like if we're talking about guys who take a lot of those, he's not great. And then the other thing is the playmaking. Like the playmaking volume just isn't great. This year in Washington, he hasn't been on the ball as much, but he also hasn't played as much. Like he, relative to the time he's on the ball, he's been pretty good. He's keeping the ball popping, but the turnovers and the raw assist production isn't there. And if you compare that to like Middleton, for example, like you're going to see a drastic difference in terms of the playmaking efficiency. So Middleton was averaging 3 assists
Yeah,
per
I was
ball.
gonna
Like
say
his,
he was having one of his best playmaking, per
Mhm.
100. Like obviously the minute stuff, that's a real concern. I don't. If that's anyone's concern, I can't. I'm not gonna argue against that. Like I understand it, but
Yeah,
I mean, like right now going into the back end of the season, like how the hell they're gonna be able to find offense outside of Dame and Giannis is, I mean, anyone's guess is as good as mine because I have no idea how it's gonna come.
yeah. I think Damian Giannis is a good bet against most teams.
Yeah.
Where's and one last question before we wrap up. Where is your sort of feel for like the Giannis panic meter? I've had a lot of Hawks fans be like, Trey's asking out, Trey's asking out. I'm not there
Mhm.
yet. Personally, from my perspective with the Hawks, because Trey knew coming into this season it was going to be a developmental year. I think it's different
Yeah.
for Giannis and the Bucks, and I also don't think that Giannis is going to ask out. But I think it was a different situation. Like when you trade for Damian Lillard, you're expecting a championship. Coming to this
Right.
year, the second year of the pairing, you're expecting to be competitive. When do you think that panic meter starts to go off? Are you a little bit worried as of now, or do you think it's like, okay, it's more dependent on the playoffs?
I mean, I think it depends on the playoffs, right? That's gonna like I know that's gonna sit in his mind more than, whatever I'll say about, how they can handle the offseason and stuff. So I mean, I think they do still have to have a somewhat reasonable playoff, right? You have to get out of the first round and then you have to make that second round series. I mean, you have to make it really, really competitive. You have to I mean, you damn near have to win, Like I know you're looking at maybe who it might be, the Knicks or whoever it's the Cavs if they're in the 4th seed. Like, I mean, you got to give that team a damn good series for Giannis to really not be worried. And then, I mean, I tweeted it. I don't know if it was yesterday or today. Um, they set themselves up to have some type of freedom. They got they're gaining some assets as far as
Mhm.
draft capital goes. So I mean, you can't you have to go all in again this summer. Like there has to be a move. You know what I mean? Whatever that move is, I haven't looked at who it could potentially be for yet. But like whatever it is, I mean, you need a move. You can't go into next year with Kuzma as your best third player. You know what I mean? As your third best player, you can't go into the season with Brook and Bobby as your two bigs. I mean,
Mhm.
it can't happen.
Yeah. To your point, you have a little bit of room coming into this offseason. They've got approximate, I think it's probably about like 15-ish million. You could probably make some, maybe you do the extension with Kuzma. Maybe you can make some of these smaller contracts work, but you can see just how much of their cap is just in Giannis and Dame. Like
Yeah,
this is 70% of the cap in two players. Obviously, like these are two players who deserve that much percentage of the cap, but you can see how it can complicate it when the depth pieces are Ryan Rollins or guys on minimums. Like it is going to be tougher to find those guys, and hopefully, I don't think the free agent class is anything super impressive this season. Like I think if you take a look at it, it's guys like Nas Reed. Like I think Nas Reed could actually be really good for you guys, but I don't know about the defense. But yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued to see what this playoffs looks like. Do you have a matchup you'd prefer, or do you just think it's like, look, I mean, whoever we can get? Like, if I assume if you guys can hold on to the 4, then you have the best chance at making the second round. Is that your thought process as well, or like, are you kind of like, dang, I don't want to put the Pacers?
no, I mean, I'm fine with the 4. I'm cool with playing the Pacers. I think the Bucks can beat the Pacers. I think they gave them a hell of a series last year with
Yeah,
no Giannis, and then Dame was in and out, and I mean,
yeah,
Chris was obviously hurt. He had the double ankle surgery, so Chris wasn't 100% either. So they gave him a hell of a series, and I think this year they could potentially win that series. But I think like the biggest thing is you have to get Dame and Giannis playing to as close as they can be to playing their A to A plus games together. And I've said that like for the past month now. Like there's no trade you can make at the deadline, outside of like Jimmy Butler or whatever, or KD, or you know what I mean? Like there's no trade
mhm,
that you can make that is more important than getting those two guys to play, their best games together. I think they had a really good game together against the Jazz before. I think it was like 2 weeks ago, maybe now, but really, really good game. I think they had like 35 apiece, really good efficiency. They just were playing really good ball. And that's just kind of stuff I'm talking about. Like if you can get them to play that type of game, I mean, you got a shot against anybody. But I mean, if even if they're off that by just the slimmest margin, this team is working on really slim margins, so it's going to be tough.
for sure, bro. Again, I appreciate you so much. I definitely appreciate you coming on after we got our get back. Um, Wishing you all the best for the rest of the season. If you do get the Pacers, I would definitely appreciate you guys knocking them out the playoffs. So yeah, let the people know where they can find you, and plug your Twitter, whatever it may be.
Yeah, bro, I appreciate it, man. At Bucks_breakdown on X, and that's where I post most of everything. So that's where I'm at.
For sure. Hope you all enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, tap in with his Twitter, and we'll see you in the next one.